Well, hello, I'm 𝐂𝐫𝐸. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to cover how I repaired the flaring bucket on my Rippa mini excavator. I think this is going to be a common problem as these machines, not only the Rippa, but many different makes and models get used more and more. It's a simple little gusset you can do on the buckets, which is going to make them last a lot longer. So check out the video. Real simple repair. Hope you enjoy it. So since I got this machine, I have about 20 hours on it, and this bucket's pretty thin. I would say it's probably 1/8 inch here. It's held up fine for the most part. This is nice and thick. That's almost half probably down here. Teeth have been holding up fine, but I've been picking up some rocks and picking up some trees, and I've kind of flared the bucket. I mentioned that in the first video I made, but I was digging a bunch of dirt the other day, got a big round river rock in here and rolled up and must have hit this part of the thumb, and it flared out the bucket quite a bit here. And to cut down this bucket getting really beat up, I'm going to take these side teeth off for now, bend this all straight, weld on maybe some 1/4 inch plate on the side just to strengthen it up. I'll put a little photo over here of my Yanmar. It had these big extra ears on it, and I kind of wonder why it had it, but it makes sense. It just strengthens the bucket up. So before this bucket gets really beat up, I'm going to do that. We're going to cut out some parts on the 𝐴RC_droid. Another thing is, these buckets are super cheap through the place I ordered it from. So if it ever really blew out a bucket and you didn't have the welding skills, you could always order another one. But I'm going to beef this thing up. So we're going to get tracing this out and make a nice little template and cut it out on the 𝐴RC_droid and weld them on. So once I get these bucket teeth off the side here, you'll see just how badly bent the 1/8 inch steel bucket is. Definitely worth gusseting. Definitely went all out on these teeth. They're definitely heavy duty. The edge where they mount is just a little on the skimpy side, so we're going to straighten this out now. So with only about 20 hours on the bucket at the time, I just felt like it had to be addressed before it got worse. Maybe 50, 60 hours, I wouldn't be surprised if the edges started to split or something worse. So wanted to kind of retain the original bucket shape and just bend it back with some hammers and use some crescent wrenches. Pretty easy to flex this thing into place because keep in mind it is only 1/8 inch. You getting that figured out? You think you got it figured out? What you got to do? You know, buzz that on there. Good job, buddy. You did it. Thank you. All right, got those pounded back into shape for the most part. This one was pretty flared out here and here, but got it pretty good. Gonna clean off this paint before I weld it and beef it up, but we're gonna make a little template on the side. Beauty of the 𝐴RC_droid is you can just basically take a piece of cardboard or something and trace it on here. We're just gonna make these little side flaps, nothing super crazy, and weld them on. Probably come over the bolts here and beef that up and cut it out. So grabbed a scrap of cardboard in the background of the shop there. Use a hammer to kind of get that bottom angle set on there by hitting the cardboard, and gonna go over it with the Sharpie marker, trace out everything I want and trace out the bolt holes, cut it out, and we're gonna take this in the other room and cut it out with the CNC plasma cutter, the little 𝐴RC_droid. If you're actually interested in learning more about the 𝐴RC_droid later, I got a video that covers a lot more in depth. It'll be in the description below. So I got my template cut here, got the holes marked on the other side. It's gonna fit something kind of like this. I think this is all going to help for reinforcement. One other thing I got to double check is if I cut these here, I might need to keep this bucket the original profile, I think. Yeah, I got to take that into account. So I'm going to have to drop it down for these guys. That shouldn't be too bad. And we'll start marking this out in the 𝐴RC_droid. So right now I got the tracing function rather than the torch on the 𝐴RC_droid. I got the tracing pen. And going through and just following along this template and making a simple trace of it. Then I'm going to go back through here and mark the holes for the teeth, bucket teeth. Really simple. It's a really user-friendly machine. You don't need to know any specific CAD programs or anything. It's all built into it. Again, like I said, I did a video previously. I covered a bunch of stuff. Now what I'm going to do is take that program I had. I put my torch back on the machine. Right now I'm doing a temporary trace without firing the torch. This just lets me maximize the metal. I was going to do 1/4 inch, but I didn't have a good sheet of it, so I'm running 3/16. Now we're going to turn on the air. I got an air dryer. Again, I cover all this in the plasma torch I'm using here. All the stuff will be linked below. If you're interested in learning more, buy the 𝐷roid or this plasma, it'll be in the description. But all this stuff works really well combined, and it's super affordable for what you're getting. It just helps you do projects like this really easy. Right here, I'm just taking an angle grinder, cleaning up the steel a little bit, getting a really nice clean surface for my ground clamp. That makes all the difference for when you're cutting slightly rusty steel. There I go. I turned on the torch, started the program. It's going to start cutting and tracing everything out. How much less you actually need to use your drill press is amazing. You don't need to go through drill bits mostly when you can cut it all with the 𝐷roid. And these CNC tables are just pretty awesome. Really portable too. So there's one reinforced bucket ear cut out, and only took a few minutes to get those 3 holes and the whole thing cut. And now we're just going to clean up a little bit of slag. Right here, I'm using a little die grinder to clean up a little bit of slag in the 3 holes, because I cut them pretty close to the right size for the bolts. And we're going to go around the edges with the angle grinder, just clean up the edge. Usually I take a hammer to it first to knock off the dross or slag on the edge, and then just do a little die grind to clean it up. So there it is, all finished up. Nice thing is I can torque these bolts down once I get all the paint clean off the bucket, and that's going to clamp it pretty well. Throw a few extra clamps in here to tighten up these little spots where the bucket's been bent around. But I have to clean up all the paint. That'll be tomorrow. It's kind of after work. It's kind of getting late. So I'm going to go CNC cut the other plate here and get it all prepped, ready to go. And tomorrow when I get home from work, I'll weld this up, and should be enough to add a little more capacity up on top of the bucket. Mainly just strengthen that whole side plate up, and it's going to get all tied into this section right up here with the big weld, and weld all the way around, and should be pretty good. So here I'm folding up the floorboard of the Mini X, disconnecting the ground clamp on the battery terminal. If you're going to weld on any type of vehicle, it's really best you always disconnect the battery just to cut down on any electronics getting burned up, whether this a voltage regulator on this thing or something. Going through here with an angle grinder and a flap wheel, take off all the paint close around the welding joint, just because any of that paint bubbling up and boiling when you're welding is going to cause porosity in your weld. Not going to get a very strong weld there. Also gone over the steel plate that I'm going to be welding on here, even though it looks nice and clean for the most part. You want to get rid of all that mill scale on it. You're not going to get a very good weld if you leave that mill scale over the top of your plate. Firing up the Vulcan Omni Pro here, and just going around it and welding a little section, probably 2 to 3 inch, and then move around to a different part of the bucket, adjust the clamps, weld another 2 or 3 inches, and probably overkill, but I went around the whole thing and welded this 100% on the both sides of the plate. Should hold on there pretty well. Got welded all the way around, probably overkill, but I want it to be strong. Don't want it coming apart again. Don't want it flexing out. I didn't go for 1/4 inch. I didn't have a big plate of it laying around here I want to cut into, so I went for 3/16 there. Should be plenty. So I don't know if this is very specific to the Rippa or if it's just specific to all these little Mini X's. I think the bucket's probably fine for digging in super light soil, but if you're lifting trees up with it and rocks or hard pan soil, you're going to probably flare the bucket. And I don't know if all the other brands are the same or if they're reinforced, but if you have a pretty thin sidewall on a bucket, Before it gets really bent up, you may consider just putting 3/16 or 1/4 inch plate down the sides of it. Save yourself a little bit of work of trying to rebend it straight. It's not that big of a job. It's pretty simple in a few hours. Even if you don't have a CNC plasma, fancy tool like that, you can get in there with the drill press and cutting torch or just angle grinder and do it all up, and be an easy way to make sure that bucket's going to last you a long time. Extra tip, always double check you can turn off your gas. Gas is not cheap to get your bottle refilled. Okay, I think that should be well reinforced. I didn't go for much more capacity because I already had these bigger teeth on the sides. I brought it up maybe 1/2 inch to maybe just the height of the bucket over here. Not crazy amounts, but it should be a lot stronger because that's 1/8 inch with 3/16 extra plate on the outside. If you have one of these, I have about 20 hours on it now. I retorqued my teeth. They were just slightly loose, not wobbling loose, but just a reminder, if you have one of these, make sure to grease it often and retorque the bucket teeth. So I'm going to hook up that battery, go through and grease this thing. I'm going to load it up. I'm going to take it out to a little job and get this thing loaded up and head out there tomorrow. Painted my Yanmar excavator last summer and got some buttery yellow paint, so I think that should be good enough for the bucket. So I have to say it worked out pretty well. Looks pretty good. Looks even better when you get some paint on it. At the time of the video when I was working on this, I had 20 hours on the machine. Since then I have another 12, so about 32 hours on it, lifting a bunch more logs, even digging out some stumps, and I had no problem with the bucket flaring, so I think I remedied that whole issue. Since then, I also passed this on to the company I bought from Rippa, Texas. Let them know about the reinforcing the bucket, and I think the owner of the company said he was going to pass this on to Rippa, the factory, and see if they would maybe consider doing some reinforcing on future buckets. At least get them out there so they know there's an issue with that, and maybe they can start addressing making it a little sturdier. I mean, might as well if they know there's an issue. It'd be nice to see if they could fix that up. So right here, I'm just greasing up the machine. I actually have a link below to metric Zerks if you want to get rid of the flush mount ones and put on the regular grease nipples like you're kind of used to. I kind of did a combination of them. Some of the stuff that's going to be down in the dirt, I left the regular flush mount ones that came on the machine. Some of the other ones are higher up and easier to get to. I did a standard Zerk nipples. So, all right, until next time, hope you enjoyed the video, and keep your machines lubed up, maintain well. Just because they're cheap and affordable doesn't mean they need to be abused, and I think they'll last quite a long time. Also, there's a playlist below if you want to see some other videos on this machine and my experience. Check them out. Till next time, take care. Bye.